Hello, I'm Dushan Drew, the Vice President of Community Network for the Bush Foundation and soon to be President of Minnesota Public Radio. And I'm thrilled to serve as your MC for the second annual Listen Dear Cancer Teen Essay Recognition. I've spent most of my life as a storyteller, first as a reporter and then as an editor. And I can tell you, the stories we tell ourselves and that we tell one another matter. They have power. They can reveal previously unexplored or unexpressed thoughts and emotions. They can expose our vulnerabilities and our inner strengths. And they can fuel our fears as well as our hopes and dreams. At their best, though, the stories we tell one another illuminate the world around us and serve as a source of inspiration, binding us together and reminding us that we are members of interdependent communities. It's hard to imagine a time at which that's been more clear than the current pandemic era. We are deeply connected in good and bad times. Now, the young people we celebrate today have given us all a great gift through their essays. Their courage and tenacity are a testament to the power of the human spirit. Whether they have battled cancer themselves or had to endure watching loved ones do so, or experienced both of those challenges, they've grown through the process. They've learned the value of life and relationships in ways that are often reserved for those in their 70s, 80s, or beyond. I've spent most of my life as a storyteller, as I said, and I have to tell you that I'm so impressed by these young people. I'm impressed by their wisdom, their resilience, their authenticity, their humor, by their mettle, and I'm sure you will be too. There's no question that they will change the world for the better. In fact, they already have, and they're just getting started. First, we'll hear from Ella Van Engen reading from her essay, Dear Cancer, You Stole My Childhood.
Middle school sucks. Truly, it's a miserable place. But it gets us ready for high school, where it also sucks, just slightly less, and you get to meet some really cool people. I honestly don't remember most of middle school, except for it not being the most fun experience ever. But I vividly remember this. Then it happened. The call. I sat in my bed doing some homework while listening to music. But I overheard my mom crying from the other room, so I did what any 13-year-old would do. I paused my music and I eavesdropped. I didn't want to make it obvious that I was listening, so I just put the stuff that I was working on for school away and listened. And then I waited and waited, and I continued waiting until my mom came in. Basically, to make an already long story short, my mom had to bring me some of the most devastating news of my life. On November 16th, 2016, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was formally diagnosed with papillary thyroid carcinoma, or a fancy way of saying that I had thyroid cancer. However, most of the people that do get it are 50 to 60-year-old women. That was a real confidence booster for me as a 13-year-old because now I'm the kid who got old lady cancer. This wasn't something a regular 13-year-old could deal with. I had to be mature, whether I liked it or not. While my friends at school were worrying about things like what role they'd get in the middle school's drama class play that we wrote ourselves, or stressing about a test in school, or worrying about their crush finding out that they liked them, or something like that, I got to worry about my cancer. No young teenager should have to constantly think about the problems that come with having cancer, yet there was no escaping it. There was absolutely nothing I could do. It's not like something you can wish away on your birthday candles, or something that if you ignore it long enough, it'll die like a houseplant. I was stuck. And the only thing I could hope for was support from friends, from family, and from the people I relied on to help me get better.
Next, we'll hear from Autumn Levin reading from her essay, I Know Cancer.
Remember that day well. I had just finished an after-school writing club at my school and was expecting to be picked up on time by my mom, as I always was. Because of that, I knew, after 15 minutes had passed the usual pickup time, that something wasn't right. But I wasn't freaking out or anything. I figured that there was probably just traffic or something of that sort. 5 minutes later, though, I decided to call my mom. When she picked up, she told me that something had happened and that my brother Grant was in the hospital. I started crying and started to calm myself with the thought that maybe it was some false alarm or just double checking to make sure he was completely alright. When I got in the car though, my mom told me the doctors suspected he had leukemia, and later that night it was confirmed. Right after my mom told me he was completely diagnosed, my mind was a stone on top. What will I do tomorrow at school? Is he gonna die? What will my life be like without him? What does this mean for my family?
Next, we'll hear from Laura Gillespie reading from her essay, I Have a Question for You.
Dear Cancer, do you ever see the faces of your victims? Do you ever care enough to stop and see those who are you slowly draining the life from? Have you ever felt the tears falling, or your voice failing, or the darkness creeping up and threatening to swallow you when you try to talk to your friends and family? Have you ever wondered if you're going to come out okay? No, you don't. You just sit there in the dark, growing and spreading and getting stronger, cherishing the sight of the world collapsing in front of you. But there is still one thing that you can never steal, kill, or touch, because hope will never be your victim.
Next, we'll hear from Amara Strandy reading from her essay, God.
I always believed I was kind, thoughtful, and caring towards others. Sure, I made mistakes, but I only wanted the best for everyone. I attended church every Sunday with either my mom or my dad, and sat in my dad's classes while doing homework for 5 years. I traveled to Israel and experienced the trip of a lifetime. I volunteered, stood up for what I believed in, and helped in every way I could in my community. So why me? Why did I get cancer? I was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of liver cancer called fibrolamellar hepatocellular carcinoma in the fall of 2017 when I was 15 years old. My story is long, complicated, and heartbreaking. My original tumor was 15 pounds, and it nearly killed me 4 times. It put me to sleep for over a month. After 4 months of chemotherapy, I was in remission for 8 months. But then it came back. Not only did it come back, but the radiologist missed my tumor a few months before we learned it had returned. As a result, I lost trust in my medical team. Despite knowing that they're just as human as I am. I have had over 20 surgeries just in the last 2 years. One scar spanning almost a foot long horizontally across my abdomen. I have suffered so much. I was forced to relearn how to walk, sit up, eat, use the bathroom, and perform basic tasks. I lost everything. Why did I have to fight cancer by myself? Why, God? Why me?
Next, we'll hear from Izzy Simeon reading from her essay, Dear Cancer.
I'm 6. The whole family came over today. I don't know why. Or maybe I do. My brother and god sibling play outside with me. We're swinging up and down, up and down. And then the back door opens. And though I thought they took that liquid out of my ears years ago, my world falls silent. It happened. I'm running, or maybe I'm just walking, I'm not sure, but all of a sudden everyone's crying. I think I am too. My brother says nothing. He is 9, and maybe his 9-year-old emotions are far too complex for me then, but it's here that his walls go up and never come down. I don't know when my family leaves my house that day. I don't know what happens the rest of that day. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have, because now there's a funeral. All my friends from school are there. We're running around. I remember playing. Apparently I was screaming, but I can't remember. Weeks feel like years, and years feel like minutes, and soon enough I'm 9. We're moving. You died in this house, Dad. And we're leaving to somewhere new. Maybe we're leaving you here too. I'm in middle school. I learned how to ride a bike. When you have a panicked single mother, you don't really get to learn those things as a kid. I don't tell anyone. As I begin to get taller, finally, my mood begins to spiral. It's funny how having a therapist your whole life can really change your views on mental health. I knew all the warnings. I knew I was in danger. I knew I was slowly breaking down. I don't tell anyone. I don't want to feel like a sick person. Maybe if I ignore it all, it will all go away. 6th and 7th grade feel like a blur of emotions. My best friend's mom is diagnosed with breast cancer. My grandma is diagnosed with breast cancer. They both survive, but do we? Death. I brushed it off. I went to school. Come home to find out my brother's best friend's dad died that morning. His funeral is different from my father's. I do not scream. I do not sob. I only sit. 8 years after the death of my father. 8 years after you took a hold of my family and silently cried. Single tear sliding down my face. All I can do then is listen.
Next, we'll hear from Juliauel, reading from her essay, Dear Cancer, I Am Julia.
Before this adventure could begin, I eagerly awaited the day when I would officially be declared cancer-free and be able to put this episode of my life behind me. However, when this day finally came, fear accompanied the joy. Who was I without cancer? Dear Cancer, I am Julia, but where do I go next? Like when I was in treatment, I handled this transition by capturing the joy in every day. On my parent-free camping trip, I took hold of the strength and responsibility that had been wrenched from me upon the diagnosis. Shortly after, I expanded upon my passion for the Boundary Waters and advocated for its protection from sulfide ore copper mining with lawmakers in Washington, D.C., accompanied by 6 other driven youth. Since then, we have empowered over 70 other youth to join us on 2 more trips to D.C., as our movement of Kids for the Boundary Waters quickly mobilized. Dear Cancer, I am Julia, and I am moving on. Being a cancer survivor is a fresh part of my identity. I'm still exploring how it fits in with who I am. My perspective has changed most. I cling to positivity, knowing that my self-talk builds my reality. And even more than before, I know that I am strong and will persist through adversity, aided by a little love. Dear Cancer, I am Julia.
And last, we'll hear from Paige Herman, our grand prize winner, reading from her essay, Dear Cancer, a peek into the life of one of your victims.
Dear Cancer, you took away the life of my father when I was 12 years old. Then, when I turned 15, you challenged me to my own battle. Through all the adversity you put me through, you taught me more about myself and about my life than I ever could have imagined. You taught me how to be strong, but that it's also okay not to be. You taught me that it's the little things in life that make everything worthwhile. You taught me how to see the positive things in life because it's too short not to, and every moment spent feeling sorry for yourself is a moment lost making a memory with a loved one. You've taught me how important family is and the power of love. You showed me time after time how beautiful it is when community comes together. For example, when I was sick, I received more than 500 cards from strangers all around the country, encouraging me and reminding me that I'm stronger than you will ever be. You taught me it is important to celebrate. Celebrate everything, because life is too short and unpredictable to take it for granted. You taught me to be thankful that I have a body that is capable of fighting you off. You have even given me opportunities that have permanently bettered me, such as when I was asked to share my story at the 25th anniversary of Relay for Life. That night, you gave me the chance to go into hundreds of people's hearts to inspire and to give hope. You allowed me to better myself, and for that, I say thank you. Thank you for making me stronger. Thank you for teaching me everything that you did, for bettering me in ways I never knew that were possible, and for changing my outlook on life. Thank you, Cancer, for giving me everything that you did. I'm stronger now because of you. I have learned to turn on the lights of life and to live in pure light and happiness, so that there aren't any shadows left for you to lurk in.
I was really intrigued by the call to action of these teens, and I think I expected a level of honesty and emotion, sure. What I didn't expect was how differently they approached it. Each of them told their story, or they told their experience so true to themselves in really creative ways that it was really hard to judge any of it, because this was the way that they were able to get it out. Some of them were linear, some were not. So in that space, it was really beautiful to be able to just read their words. I found myself kind of lost in each person's story or each person's experience, and I didn't find myself trying to match, where does this person live? What do they look like? What is their life like? You really just got to imagine what they were writing as lived reality, and accept it for what it was. And I thought that was really something that I learned a lot from. Even though I was reading, I was listening, and how critical it is that we listen to people tell their own stories and not try to tell it for them. That took guts, and they should be given an award just for writing some of that stuff down, because that's a leap. You know, even if the vulnerability is just words on a page, it's still releasing it from your insides. It's going somewhere. And I admire that courage. And in addition to being an admiration of the courage to even just participate or to write those things down and somehow say them out loud in that format, I got a glimpse of Cancer dozens of times that I never could have imagined. I haven't experienced the kind of experiences many of those young people are experiencing or have experienced. And it was unexpected. It wasn't just clinical. It was how it lives with them like a monster in the room. And sometimes they're able to converse with the monster, acknowledge the monster, and live around it. Sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're scared, and sometimes they just understand it's there and it's something they have to deal with. And I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way before. I just thought of it basically like science. You know, cancer is a sickness. You use medicine to get rid of it, and you do your best. But this, different. This was them talking about fighting a disease or fighting the disease in their household with things beyond medicine, with their own thoughts, their own actions, and their own emotions.
In addition, another one of the celebrity judges, Carolyn Holbrook, shared the following.
that reading those young people's beautifully sincere and well-written essays was such a joy. It was sad to see the wide range of loved ones they mourned, grandparents, parents, aunts, and siblings, yet I was impressed by their eloquence in expressing their feelings. I am grateful to Gilda's Club for providing this wonderful opportunity. Self-expression is such an important part of coping and healing. Thank you to all the staff and volunteers of Gilda's Club, the celebrity judge panel, and all of the youth participants who made the second annual Listen to Your Cancer Teen Essay Contest possible. And also, a very special thank you to all of you viewers in joining us in recognizing and celebrating the important stories shared by these youth. Full versions of the essays from this year's contest are available at the Gilda's Club website, www.gildasclubtwincities.org. Also, be sure to follow Gilda's Club across social media for updates on the third annual Listen to Your Cancer Teen Essay Contest, which will be coming up very soon.